Welcome to today's edition of Mental Health Matter. Today I have Richard Gallo on the show. This is part two of Richard talking about the benefits of volunteering. Get you something to drink and get you a snack and come on back. All right, Richard, how was your break?
Good, good. I
Uh,
need to drink coffee,
yeah.
did a few things, and then
Ye-
I'm back on.
Yes, I needed to take a quick one too, so I'm glad you said that. So we left off, we were kind of talking about how people get involved with advocacy work. We were kind of talking about the meetings being ongoing, maybe once a month, maybe 1 or 2 hours, and so forth. And you kind of talked about that there needs to be more of peer voices being heard at these meetings, because of the peers need to be heard. Let's finish that a little bit, because and the reason why I know you're on to something, because I also is connected with the mental health field, but also I know that I have friends that work, um and I'm trying to be very discreet about what I'm trying to say and not kind of air them out.
Mm-hmm.
But I know friends who work in places who feel the same way. I know one individual work at a place, and you know there are peers that work there, but this particular person um feel like the place where they work at, more peers need to be hired, more education need to be done around mental health in the workplace, and just all that. So talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, we need to increase our peer workforce within the peer community, because it benefits the community, it benefits the families, and it benefits especially the mental health community because they're
Yeah.
the ones that needs it. It's about role modeling, it's
Mhm.
about educating, it's about encouragement. Just because you have the diagnosis, it's not a death sentence.
Exactly.
It's about
Exactly.
learning to adjust and readjust,
Yeah.
dealing with your mental health,
Yeah.
depending on what the diagnosis is.
Yeah. So a lot of these people that's on the state level, and these government officials, a lot of these people are making decisions, that affect people's lives. And it sounds like um, the reason why a lot of advocacy is happening is because they don't, it appears allegedly, they don't fully understand um the work that goes into uh being a peer, or they don't fully understand why it's important to have peer roles, or why it's important to have peer voices. And it's kind of like the decisions are being made when in fact the funding should be benefiting people with mental health diagnoses, meaning peers.
Right.
What are some ways that the community can help educate these people that are making these decisions, but it seems like they have a lack of education when they're making these
I
decisions?
totally agree with you, Jesse, 100%. That's part of the problem, and that's part of the issue that needs to be resolved. So one way they can do is make a phone call to their
Okay.
local elected officials at the county that they live in with
Yeah.
behavioral health, and at the state level with the Mental Health Services Act Oversight Accountability Commission. Okay, those are the two ways to make a positive impact. So
Mhm.
it's not just making a phone call, you can email them, you
Yes.
can visit them in person, you could attend their meetings and make public comments, because part of public comments will make a big difference, especially when they're doing the community planning process, which is commonly called CPP. That's where the decision making is, what is needed in your community. The more the mental health community voices about the importance of peer support, the more likely that that program will be funded.
Yes.
Because part of the problem is with behavioral health is they prefer to do it the old ways.
Yeah.
County will make their own decision without community feedback.
Yeah.
With the Mental Health Services Act, the requirement under the act is to provide client community driven. They're supposed to go based on their needs, their
Yes.
wants, and not the county. And that's what we're one of our frustration with those 19 of us are volunteer, and 13 of them are just involved individuals, live experience.
Right.
So I'm glad that they are part of our group to expand the needs of justice involved, because one of the issues that they face is barriers to housing,
Yes.
you know, because of the record. They
Right.
get screened out
Right.
because of the record.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing is employment,
Mm-hmm.
barrier to employment because of the record. But one things that they can do to increase their employment chances that they're not aware of is look into second chance.
Okay.
That's a program where employer will allow a convicted individual to work with the company. And this benefits them not going back as a revolving door within the justice system.
Okay. Okay. Wow. Nice. That's very good to know. Um, you just talked about a whole lot, just a whole lot. I do agree with the point that the peers definitely needs to be involved. It needs to be client driven. It needs to be all of that. But I'm trying to, I think for myself, I'm trying to wrap my head around that this fight has been going on for so many years
Mhm.
with these people who are making a decision. And I know, which I won't name this person's name, I know there was a um, public figure, that worked in the government system. I just say that this particular individual ended up having a family member with mental health
Mhm.
challenges or diagnoses, and this particular individual was heavily. I don't know if that was the reason why this person got involved, but I mean, they got involved, like really got involved. And it's so unfortunate that, you
It
know,
is,
things like that has to happen where,
but it shouldn't be that way.
right, exactly, it shouldn't be that way. That's the point I was trying to make. If you don't um know people or have friends that are associated with mental health challenges, just being a human being, you know
Right.
get involved, learn to be open, allow yourself to be educated, go to these meetings, listen, and volunteer, because there's something that you can potentially contribute, especially making these decisions. Like you're making a decision here, but unfortunately that may have to happen. I mean, they may have a sister, a brother, a grandchild, somebody who may
Mhm.
have to, you know, have a diagnosis. They may have a brother come from the military with PTSD. Who
Mhm.
knows, And now it's like, oh, it's the aha moment, like, oh, this is what they've been talking about. This is why there's a need, because now it's something that they personally have to see or deal with.
Right. Because one of the concerns is not just with Access Ambassadors, but with Cal Voices, is about the peer movement and the
Yeah,
peer workforce. It's a question mark right now what our future looks like
yeah,
because with Cal AIM and with CareCore, they're not including the peer community. They're not including the peer workers. And for those of you that are peer workers or peer volunteers, join the California Association of Peer Professionals. That's one way you can learn what's happening at the state level
yeah,
and how you can help educate our elected officials. Do not go that route because as of right now, we're not included.
wow,
And it's shameful, it's discouraging, and it's scary
yeah,
because it's going to make a negative impact with reducing our workforce when Cal Mesa is investing 5,000 slots of peer workers for the state of California for peer programs or peer services throughout the state.
yeah,
Right now, they're heavily focused on community healthcare workers, which I support completely. But I think the peer movement can be part of that group as well. It's a
yeah,
different model. Um, I support that model completely, but we're not being included. It's
yeah,
we're being totally disrespected, disregard as far as our peer movement goes. We have to continue to fight and advocate as much as frustrated, disappointed, discouraged as we all are, but we cannot give up. We need to continue build our movement. We're
yeah,
part of the disability community. You
yeah,
know, we have to make noise. One of the things that elected officials don't like, if you go to the news media, whether it's your newspaper, your local television station, or a national station radio,
yeah,
that will get their attention.
yes,
When the county of Santa Cruz decided to defund our respite house program,
yes,
and all those workers was going to lose their jobs and have no replacement to go to in our county. They made noise. They went
yes,
to the news media. They
yes,
went to the hearing that made a positive impact in getting the funding reinstated.
yes,
So those small group of individuals made a big difference in saving the respite program, not just because of their jobs,
yes,
but for those peer communities that need alternative placement,
yes,
alternative support besides psychiatric lockup. It's
yes,
about recovery, maintaining their recovery. They don't have those alternative options. How are they going to recover?
right, right.
With
So,
peer support 24/7. They
yeah,
make a huge difference explaining about I had my breakdown 20 years ago. I had my breakdown 5 years ago. I had my breakdown 10 years ago. And
yeah,
I've been in recovery.
yeah,
These individuals make positive impact with our mental health community, especially the newly diagnosed
yeah,
individuals,
yeah,
because they need to see if she can do it, I can do it. If he can do it, I can do it.
exactly. That's exactly right. And once again, it only takes a few hours out of your month, 3 hour, whatever, to get involved and allow your voice to be heard to advocate for these changes to come about. Um, I don't know. I still kind of um, can't help but to think, like, why is it so hard for these people making these decisions to just give us what we need, not necessarily what we want, but what we need, you know. And everything is revolves around politics, as you know, everything,
Of course.
and I don't understand, like, why is certain funding or certain things being allocated in this particular area when clearly there's a greater need over here. I don't know, just the dynamics of how things are and how things work. I try to wrap my head around it, but it could be overwhelming for me when I try to think too
It
much.
is.
into it, you know.
It
Uh,
is totally, Jesse. You know,
yeah,
it's like counties that do the innovation plans as far as workforce, they don't include peers in the workforce. And that's when I reminded the State Oversight Commission.
yeah,
That's where I questioned them.
yeah,
Where's the peer workforce?
yeah,
Where's the funding for the peer workers
yeah,
and livable wages? Because
yeah,
they have to be respected as a professional, as a person with lived experience serving the mental health community.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I want to talk a little bit more about some of the other volunteer work that that's available to be able to make an impact, because the mental health, that's definitely, in my opinion, that's it's a great need. Um, you know, dealing with the Mental Health Service Act, the way these funds have been allocated, just
Right.
all that. But what are some other areas that you feel is definitely need volunteers, or the voices of volunteers?
Right. I would say volunteer with your local hotline,
Mm,
suicide hotlines,
yes,
the California Peer Warm Line, which
yes,
is a 24-hour service for the mental health community.
yes,
And keep in mind that this is separate from 988.
yeah,
So it's about providing peer support. It's about helping the individual connect to getting treatment. It's about helping the individual understanding, educating the importance of your medication and the reason why you need the medication to help with your recovery, maintaining with your recovery. So it's 24/7. That's hotlines are a good way for them to volunteer.
yeah, yes, absolutely. I was kind of thinking more of something else, but I did forget about the hotlines and the warm line and stuff like that. That's actually pretty good that you brought that up, because that's really not like the traditional 9 to 5. That those
Correct.
calls go on 24 hours a day, and people may be what we call night owls. People may, you know, may like to volunteer in the middle of the night. That would be perfect to get involved, you know, a few hours during the night, and can get up and have their day or go to work, whatever they're doing. Um,
Yes.
but in those particular volunteer work, they will get trained really, really well.
Totally.
They will learn
They're
how to handle,
required to.
yes, learn how to handle scenarios, you know, especially if a person's has suicide ideation, they'll know the proper steps, and how to walk them through, and questions to ask, and different things like that. If people
Right.
call, that's definitely a really, really good volunteer opportunity right there, for
Right.
sure.
And another example is texting. There is one organization where they do help by texting.
Oh,
So
I
you're
didn't know that.
basically, yes,
Oh,
and
wow.
you're required to have training. You have to pass the exam before you can be placed as a volunteer and then ongoing training. Um,
Oh, wow.
yeah, just look it up online. It's a great
Okay.
organization, it's a great service, and people are not aware of this. Just like the mental health community is not aware about the California Peer Warm Line. That's
Okay.
available for them by their own peers.
Yes. Well, I know about the warm line, but I didn't know about the texting, which is it makes sense to me. I know I've heard of people uh doing, like, especially for the youth, doing more like the
Yes.
social media um you know, thing with them, because you know they're big social media people, the youth are. So I've heard of people kind of do, and even with the texting, I've heard texting being associated with that as well.
Mhm.
And people creating these groups to try to eliminate bullying, and the
Correct.
anxiety and the depression that comes from online bullying and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, if you think about it, though, there are many ways to get involved with volunteering, and it seems like things are now it's starting to be very creative
Hmm.
because of technology that we have. We can be creative in ways to get involved. Do you know if any of the county meetings are online, like a Zoom, or is it just in person that you know of?
You know, right now, since we're not in COVID, it's in person, but
Okay,
it depends on your local county. They may
okay,
have extended, still doing by Zoom, or you
okay.
can do one or the other, in person and Zoom. So check with your local county and they'll be able to tell you because
And
it
I
varies
want,
from county to county.
okay. And I'm wondering too, if people, if they just so happen to miss the meeting, will the meetings be, will they be able to have access to a meeting that they miss, online? Do you know?
Yes, they're supposed to be posted on the
Perfect.
website. It's required because it's part of the Brown Act. It's a
Okay,
public meeting. So
okay,
they have to post it on their website.
yeah,
They- You just
okay,
have to wait a week or a month before it's posted, depending on the timeline when the county usually posts it.
okay,
Just go back and check, and then you'll be able to listen and watch and provide feedback based on what you just heard, to voice your concerns, whether you agree or disagree the decision that's being made
right.
about those issues and funding.
Yeah, and a good thing about them being able to access the meeting online is, you know, they can watch it multiple times just in case they miss
Mhm.
something. You know, and really gauge in what was shared and what they felt should have been shared or should have been done. I think during COVID, when everything went online, I think that was a very, 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 very strategic and smart uh thing to do, because before that, there was not, I mean yeah, people was using Teams and Zoom, but not on the level that we started, you know, when COVID hit, you know, obviously
Right.
because of the things that was going on. But I feel like now, it's so much you can do. Just, I mean, you could just be reviewing meetings online. Like, it's just so much you can do to get involved. But
Mhm.
I'm hoping that people who have a desire to get involved with this specific type of work that you're talking about, I'm really
Mhm.
hoping that they you know, go out there and get their voice heard, because it sounds like, and I shouldn't say sounds like, but it is definitely needed when it comes to this type of work. So, um, so we talked about the mental health, but I want to talk a little bit about the physical health,
Mhm.
how volunteering can affect a person's physical health. When I was
Mhm.
doing my reading, my research on this, um, I was reading about how, you know, how your physical health is tied to your mental health, and your mental health is tied to your physical health. And one article I read, it was a physician, and he was saying how he had clients or patients that had you know, physical diagnoses, and when they started to volunteer, he noticed that some of the issues that they was having in their physical body started to decline, which I thought was extremely interesting. But then he started talking about how it was because not only they volunteer, but it was because their mental health is tied to their physical health, which led their physical health to start on the road to recovery, which I thought was very interesting. Do you believe that there's some truth to that?
I do. You know, research have proven the positive impact that it have on your brain and your physical overall health when it comes to volunteer. It's been
Yeah,
proven, you
yeah,
know, study after study throughout the world that did this type of study have shown that.
yes. And if you think about it too, um, I know someone who is, and this is a true story too, by the way. I know someone who is a personal trainer, and this particular person started out volunteering, being a personal trainer at the gym. and maybe about maybe 4 months into it, he started to get really sick, and then he was diagnosed with MS. Now, this is a guy, when I said like extremely confident,
Mm-hmm.
um, very physically fit, very motivated. Love, when I say, when I say he volunteers, it goes beyond the gym. Like even people outside of work, or family and friends, he's coming up with meal plans. Like this was really his life, you know. And all of a sudden he got hit with MS. And you start to see this very confident, competent person in the fitness world all of a sudden start to deal with isolation, all of a sudden start to deal with depression, all of a sudden started having suicidal thoughts. None of what I've just described to you, you know, in terms of the isolation, depression, and all
Mm-hmm.
that. He had none of this stuff going on. But the moment that he got hit with MS, when I was talking to him, one of the things that he brought, and I felt, when I tell you, like my heart really went out to this guy, one of the things that he talked about was his ability not to be able to volunteer and help people.
Mm-hmm.
That was like his main thing, you know, because he wanted people to eat healthy, lose weight, blood pressure drop, you know, work on their cholesterol. Like he was targeting, you know, different things in different people's lives that they would share with him through fitness and healthy eating. But he
Mm-hmm.
felt that he wasn't useful anymore because of his physical health. And I had to really try to talk to him and let him know that, you know, this is going to get better, it's going to work out, and you cannot physically go to the gym and volunteer or physically help them, but you can verbally still communicate with them, you know, about healthy eating. You know, it was just like for real crazy the way this happened. But I see the correlation with the mental and physical health, like the doctor was saying in the article. I mean, because it all goes together at the end.
Right, right. You know, unfortunately, MS is a physical condition.
Yeah.
That's where impacts heavily. So what he needs to realize is he can still do volunteer online and by
Right.
phone. There's a program through COVA, COVIA, where they operate more than one program, where they do nationally and internationally by phone.
Okay.
So he can do about health and wellness,
Yeah.
healthy eating,
Yes.
and still educate others and make a difference. The other thing he can do is volunteer with his local MS
Yeah.
organization.
Yeah.
That's one way to help him maintain his recovery and not, you know, get out of being isolated, get out of being depressed,
Yeah.
because that's not going to help him.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. I know too, when he started to have like these suicidal thoughts and depression and stuff, I know one of the things that we did talk about was him uh getting you know, in the mental health movement too, and bringing the physical health and telling his story, because you know, it was tough. Like it was, when I say it was tough on him, it was tough. And it's crazy too, Richard, because this man was in a process. He had literally just got engaged too. And
Oh,
so yeah, he had a wedding plan. He did end up getting married. He left Sacramento and moved, you know, to another state because it was a little bit too much for him, you know, here, because of where the diagnosis happened at and stuff, and he wanted a fresh start. But
right.
it was tough, but you know, he is managing his symptoms and things like that. I haven't talked to him about the mental health part of it, meaning
Mm-hmm.
going in that direction. But I think he would be a very good advocate in the mental health space because of what he went through, for sure.
Yeah, sure. And I'll email you the link of that particular phone program that's available for seniors and people with disability, because that's our target population with this particular phone Zoom
Okay,
calls of the programs that they offer. Just you'll see it. When you get
okay,
the material, you'll see it.
okay, okay, perfect. So we got about another minute or two. Do you have anything, any last minute remarks before we close out?
Um, the only thing I would say is, especially with the peer community, the mental health communities, we need you to volunteer with advocacy. We need you more than ever, especially with the upcoming changes with CalAIM, the Mental Health Services Modernization Act, and Care Court. We need to sustain our peer movement. So volunteer, contact your organization, call Cal Voices. They will refer you to the appropriate programs or agencies or information that you need about what's needed.
All right. Thank you so much, Richard, for your time. Thank you for sharing your thoughts about volunteering. Thank you for sharing information on mental health. I really appreciate you taking the time and just coming on the show and sharing your experience. Thank you.
You're more than
Um,
welcome, Jesse.
Thank you. That's it for this edition of Mental Health Matters. If you enjoyed this particular show, if you'd like to be a guest on our show, or if you would like a DVD copy of our show, please dial 916-366-4600. Thank you.